The moment she sat beside me, my ordinary day turned into the kind of story no one would believe. Her hands were trembling, her emerald green coat was soaked from the morning rain, and although she looked calm on the outside, her eyes carried the fear of someone running from a storm that had nothing to do with the weather. Before I could even ask if the seat was taken, she leaned closer and whispered something that made my heart stop. "You're my husband, for the next 3 hours." I stared at her, convinced I had misunderstood. But then I noticed a tall man in a black jacket slowly walking through the train aisle, scanning every passenger with unsettling determination. She squeezed my hand beneath the table just long enough to make it look convincing, and suddenly I realized this wasn't some strange joke. She was terrified. Before we begin this unforgettable story, if you believe kindness, courage, and second chances can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share it with someone who loves emotional stories, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy for more heart-touching journeys. My name was Rowan Mercer. At 34, my life had become painfully predictable. After losing my wife to illness 3 years earlier, I spent my days repairing antique clocks and my evenings returning to an empty apartment. People said time healed everything, but I spent every day fixing broken clocks while my own heart remained frozen in the past. That Tuesday morning I boarded an old scenic train heading toward the countryside to restore a historic clock in a small museum. I expected nothing more than quiet scenery and a peaceful ride. Instead, fate sat down beside me. The young woman introduced herself only as Maria. She couldn't have been older than 28. She wore no jewelry except a thin silver bracelet engraved with tiny wildflowers. Despite her elegant appearance, she looked exhausted, as though she hadn't slept for days. Without explaining much, she quietly asked me to smile whenever the man in the black jacket looked our way. She rested her hand over mine, pretending we were a married couple deeply in love. Every instinct told me to ask questions, yet something in her frightened eyes convinced me that helping first and questioning later was the right thing to do. For the next hour, we laughed softly whenever the stranger passed. We admired the mountains outside the window, pretending everything was normal. But underneath that performance, I could feel her pulse racing through her fingertips. Eventually the man left our carriage. Only then did Maria finally breathe normally. She explained that she had escaped an emotionally controlling fiancé whose wealthy family refused to let her leave. They believed their reputation mattered more than her happiness. She had secretly boarded the train after discovering documents proving her fiancé had committed financial crimes using charities that were supposed to help struggling families. She carried those documents inside her leather bag. She wasn't running because she had stolen anything. She was running because she knew the truth. The man searching the train worked for her former fiancé. If he found her before she reached the city, everything would disappear. As she told her story, I noticed something unexpected. Behind her fear remained remarkable kindness. Every time the train stopped, she smiled warmly at children boarding with their parents. She helped an elderly passenger lift heavy luggage. She thanked every employee we passed. Pain hadn't stolen her humanity. It had strengthened it. The countryside rolled by beneath brilliant afternoon sunlight. Golden fields stretched endlessly beneath bright blue skies while distant farms shimmered in the warmth of the day. The peaceful scenery seemed almost impossible compared to the tension surrounding us. During lunch in the dining car, we continued pretending to be husband and wife. Surprisingly, it became easier with every passing mile. Not because we were falling in love. Because we were two lonely strangers carrying invisible grief. She eventually asked why I traveled alone. For the first time in years, I told someone about my late wife. I admitted that after losing her, I stopped believing life could surprise me again. Every day felt identical. Every sunrise reminded me of someone missing. Maria didn't interrupt. She simply listened. Sometimes the greatest kindness isn't advice. It's giving someone permission to finally speak. Hours passed. For the first time in years, I laughed without forcing it. She confessed that before meeting her fiancé, she had dreamed of becoming an architect designing affordable homes for struggling families. Instead, she spent years trapped inside a luxurious prison built from expectations and appearances. She said wealth had given her comfort but stolen her freedom. I quietly admitted poverty had taken many things from me but had never stolen my ability to choose kindness. Those words stayed between us as the train continued forward. When we reached the next station, everything changed. The man in the black jacket returned. This time he wasn't alone. 2 others searched every carriage. Passengers became nervous as security officers began checking tickets. Mireya's face turned pale. Without thinking, I stood beside her, wrapped my arm gently around her shoulders, and continued acting like a protective husband. The men looked directly at us. One stared for several long seconds. Then they moved on. Only after they disappeared did I realize my own hands were shaking. Helping a stranger had suddenly become dangerous. But strangely, I didn't regret it. A few seats away sat an elderly widow named Mrs. Eleanor Finch. She had quietly watched everything unfold. When the danger passed, she smiled warmly before revealing something unexpected. Years earlier, complete strangers had hidden her family during a terrible flood, risking everything to save lives they didn't even know. She softly reminded us that kindness always travels farther than fear. Her words settled deeply inside my heart. As the afternoon sun painted golden light across the train windows, I realized something extraordinary. This journey had already changed me. Not because I had met someone beautiful, but because I had remembered who I used to be before grief convinced me to stop trusting people. Eventually we arrived at the city terminal. Police officers were already waiting. Not for Mireya, for the men following her. Earlier during the trip, Mrs. Finch had quietly contacted authorities after recognizing one of the pursuers from a news report involving financial fraud. Within minutes the documents Mireya carried became evidence. The men were arrested before leaving the platform. For the first time all day, Mireya cried. Not from fear, from relief. Outside the station, the afternoon sun shone brighter than ever. 3 hours earlier we had been strangers. Now we stood silently knowing our lives would never be quite the same. She thanked me for believing her when I had every reason not to. I smiled and admitted something. She hadn't only saved herself. Without realizing it, she had rescued a man who had forgotten how to live. Months later, after completing the museum restoration, I received a handwritten invitation. Mireya had fulfilled her dream. Using funds recovered from the fraud investigation, she had established a nonprofit organization building affordable homes for single parents, veterans, and elderly people who had nowhere else to go. She wanted me to repair the large antique clock hanging inside the entrance hall. She believed every family deserved a place where time represented hope instead of loss. Standing inside that beautiful building, surrounded by children laughing and families receiving keys to their new homes, I understood something my late wife once told me. Life doesn't always send miracles wrapped in happiness. Sometimes they arrive disguised as frightened strangers asking impossible favors. That train ride lasted only 3 hours. Its impact lasted forever. If I had refused to help because it seemed strange, none of this would have happened. Sometimes the greatest chapters of our lives begin with trusting someone we've never met. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who believes kindness still exists, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that inspire hope around the world. Herb special request. Before you leave, comment, one act of kindness can change a lifetime. We'd love to know how kindness has changed your own life. As Rowan walked away beneath the warm evening sunlight, he no longer believed that time only healed wounds. Sometimes, time introduced the exact person needed to remind a broken heart that life was still filled with unexpected miracles, and that the shortest journeys often lead to the most unforgettable destinations.